Late at night, a girl walked alone on the quiet streets. Suddenly, a car stopped beside her. In the next moment, she was forcefully dragged into the car. Inside the car, several men leered and tore off the girl's clothes. Nomoto thought he was just hanging out with his friends to make some extra money, but he never expected his friends to engage in such twisted acts. The more he thought about it, the more frightened he became. Nevertheless, he stopped the car. However, to Nomoto's surprise, the kidnapped girl asked him to keep driving. Meanwhile, Nomoto's friends were all killed by the girl named Hitomi. Then Hitomi instructed Nomoto to drive to an automobile processing plant. After witnessing the gruesome scene of his friends' deaths just moments ago, Nomoto started vomiting as soon as he got out of the car. Hitomi was on the phone at that moment. Looking around, Nomoto realized that the place was filled with corpses. Ignoring everything, he desperately wanted to escape. In his escape attempt, he stumbled upon an arena. There, he met a man and pleaded for help. Upon learning about Nomoto's ordeal, the man said that it must have been the work of beastmen. Beastmen were a new breed of humans who possessed both human intelligence and animal abilities. They were a superior race, surpassing human strength. Nomoto, having just come back from the dead, didn't think it was the right time to say something so stupid. As soon as the man heard Nomoto call himself a fool, he immediately showed his true form. In the blink of an eye, the man transformed into the king of beastmen, a lion. Just as Nomoto was about to be killed, Hitomi appeared in time and saved him. Because Hitomi's superior, Shrine, had ordered her to keep Nomoto alive. However, the lion, because of his humiliation and the revelation of his identity, was determined to kill Nomoto no matter what. At this point, both sides had no choice but to engage in a battle between beastmen. It turned out that this place was an arena for beastmen battles, and the fight between them, for the rich to watch and bet on. The lion was currently the undisputed champion of the arena, and Hitomi is only fighting for the first time today. The difference between the two sides is 100% to 0%. Facing such a significant disadvantage, Hitomi still chose to confront the lion head-on in her transformed state. But before Hitomi could finish her opening statement, the lion delivered a powerful punch that sent her flying. Despite being overpowered, Hitomi evaded the lion's punch, got up, and delivered a flying kick. However, she was caught by the lion and pinned to the ground by her leg. Although Hitomi was no match for the lion in terms of strength, there was always a confident expression on her face. Meanwhile, Nomoto, who was behind them, was paralyzed with fear, but Hitomi showed no trace of fear. It turned out that Hitomi's true form was a honey badger. The characteristic of this animal was fearlessness. When the lion swung a full-force punch at Hitomi, Hitomi quickly bit off the lion's paw, and kept taunting the lion. Enraged, the lion started attacking blindly. In the end, he was no match for Hitomi's ultimate move and was killed in a counterattack. Their battle was all being watched as entertainment by the wealthy individuals on the space station. One of the Zaibatsu even couldn't help but stick out his tongue in excitement. The next day, Hitomi asked Nomoto to accompany her for a dessert outing. Little did Nomoto know that the real reason behind it was to meet her superior, Shrine. When Shrine finally appeared, Hitomi's behavior took a stark contrast from her usual self. It turned out that Shrine had saved Nomoto's life with a purpose in mind, to have him act as a witness on behalf of humans. Shrine revealed that genetically modified beastmen like Hitomi were actually tools used by major conglomerates for battles. They need humans like Nomoto to do more witnessing and investigation. After explaining the situation, Shrine left a reward of 100 million yen for Nomoto to become Hitomi's investor and participate in the beastman fights. And so, on that very day, the two of them began living together. Hitomi warned Nomoto not to casually leak any information. However, that night, as Nomoto went out to buy something, he unintentionally glanced at a beautiful woman. Suddenly, Nomoto felt a sharp pain as a steel needle pierced his thigh, and another spike went straight into his nostril. The woman who had caught him wanted to extract information about Hitomi, but before she could proceed, Hitomi appeared behind her. Approaching the back of this woman was not a wise move. It turned out that the woman's beastman prototype was a porcupine, granting her absolute defense with her entire body covered in spikes. Through modifications, her defense had increased, and she could even shoot spikes from her body to pierce through enemies. Her spines possessed incredibly high destructive power, easily piercing through steel plates in the parking lot. Hitomi could only continuously dodge her attacks, and the woman has only one goal: to kill Nomoto, the investor, so that Hitomi wouldn't be able to participate in the orc tournament organized by the Beastman. However, What she didn't expect was that Hitomi managed to send her flying with a surprise attack from behind. But just as Hitomi was about to deliver a fatal blow, Nemoto timely called out to her, stating that killing someone near his home would cause a lot of trouble. However, at that moment, the woman suddenly stood up and launched another attack. Just when things seemed dire, a muscular man rushed out and knocked the porcupine away. The porcupine's spines had no effect on this man, showcasing his formidable strength. But to everyone's surprise, this man knelt directly in front of Hitomi and begged her for a favor. His name was Okajima, representing the Ishida Zaibatsu, one of the 4 major conglomerates. He wanted Hitomi to join their ranks and participate in the upcoming Beastman tournament. Initially, Hitomi, who was accustomed to being alone, refused to join. However, Nemoto showed her the message sent by Shrine, and Hitomi immediately changed her mind, agreeing to Okajima's request. The next morning, Hitomi woke Nemoto up and told him that they were going to attend university together. Hitomi was curious about going to school, but when she arrived in the classroom, she found a tired old man giving a lackluster lecture. It bored Hitomi, so she went to the restroom to calm down. However, when she looked up, she caught a girl peeping at her. To her surprise, this girl, Elsa, belonged to the same Hachiryu Zaibatsu as the woman from the previous night. Elsa was intrigued by Hitomi's ability to defeat a lion and wanted her to join their group. Seeing that Hitomi didn't react much, Elsa snatched Hitomi's panties and lured her outside. And Elsa, who was still in human form, she had the speed to outrun Hitomi. When they chased each other to an open space outside the school, Elsa suddenly turned around and counterattacked, and threw Hitomi to the ground. The reason why she is so fast, because her prototype is a jaguar. Elsa wanted to show off her own strength but was surprised when Hitomi quickly bit her arm. Just as the two were about to start a fight, representatives from the Sanmon Zaibatsu intervened, stating that private fights between participants were not allowed before the Beastman tournament. They warned that anyone who violated this rule would have their qualification revoked. The fact that all the major conglomerates were trying to recruit Hitomi showed just how remarkable her abilities were. In order to get Hitomi to join Hachiryu Zaibatsu, Elsa had to follow her all the way. After spending some time together, their relationship improved. With nothing else to do, Nemoto decided to head home. However, when he arrived, he found the lion that Hitomi had defeated waiting for him. Alongside the lion was Yoho from the Sanmon Zaibatsu. Yoho's purpose was to convince Nemoto to give up participating in the Beastman tournament because the defeated Beastman in the competition would die. Yoho believed that Nemoto, a worthless individual, wasn't deserving of Hitomi. In the tournament, Nemoto would be the player commanding Hitomi and another Beastman in a 2v2 battle. As a novice who knew nothing, Yoho advised him to withdraw to avoid wasting Hitomi's talent. On the other hand, Hitomi disagreed. She believed that if Nemoto didn't understand anything, she could act according to her own instincts. So even though Nemoto suggested quitting later on, Hitomi still wanted to participate in the tournament with him. Now the problem was finding another teammate. Okajima thought of someone who had repeatedly lost in battles. The bunny girl Inaba. Inaba was clumsy in everything she did and thought that becoming a beastman would make her useful. However, her genetic match was only a rabbit, and she was useless in fights, always running away. Nemoto bought a bottle of carrot juice to persuade Inaba to join them, but before Inaba had a chance to drink it, assassins from other conglomerates arrived. Frightened, Inaba dug a hole on the spot to hide. The assassin was a lizard beastman who could use tears of blood to execute perfect assassinations. Just as Inaba was in danger, Hitomi arrived in time to block the attack. However, the assassin's attacks were too frequent, and even Hitomi could only defend herself. Luckily, Inaba's rabbit ears came in handy as she detected another person behind the lizard beastman. Hitomi aimed at the person behind and successfully scared the lizard beastman away. For Inaba, who had always been a failure, it was her first taste of victory. She agreed to join Hitomi in the tournament. Late at night, two girls were chasing each other in a forest. Suddenly, the girl in front stopped and turned around, looking smugly at the girl behind her. In the next moment, the girl was attacked by a monster. The monster tightly coiled around her body. It turns out they're all beastmen. In this world, a new type of human called beastmen had emerged. Some people had their genes modified by implanting animal DNA, turning them into beastmen. These genetically modified beastmen became pawns in the battles between major conglomerates. To facilitate this, the conglomerates organized a beastmen tournament for the wealthy to watch and bet on. Our main characters were representing the Ishida Zaibatsu in the tournament, along with teams from the Sanmon, Hachiryu, and Horn conglomerates. All Horns players are ruthless. There's even a beastman who likes to play with all kinds of girls. He also tried to attack Hitomi's teammates, but Hitomi showed up just in time to save her. They arrived on an unknown island. In the center of the island, there was a square arena for the competition. The 4 players would control their beastmen pieces by rolling dice and watching a large screen. Good dice rolls would give them advantageous positions on the arena. The other players had already explored the terrain, but Nemoto, who was participating for the first time, had no knowledge of it. As the other players were ready to mock Nemoto for his lack of knowledge, he surprisingly chose the best coordinate on the arena. It turned out that Hitomi had given him a plan before the competition. She instructed Nemoto to follow her gestures and commands. In other words, this competition was effectively Hitomi commanding Nemoto. Soon, Hitomi sensed a strong killing intent approaching. It was Jerome, the black bear she had fought before. Jerome had learned from his previous encounter with Hitomi. They discovered that Hitomi would take a few hits before finding her opponent's weakness and launching a lethal strike. So, Jerome believed that the best way to defeat Hitomi was to use his strongest move and strike first. However, Jerome underestimated Hitomi. Despite only fighting him once before, she had already grasped his fighting style and managed to counterattack. This unexpected scene, all the viewers were even more impressed by Hitomi. Meanwhile, on the other hand, the tiger attacked Hitomi's teammate Okajima, but Okajima's tough skin allowed him to withstand the tiger's attacks. Just as the two sides were about to engage in battle, 2 players from the Horn and Samon teams found them. Since they all feared the tiger's strength, they decided to join forces and take down the tiger first. But could they really defeat the reigning champion of the previous tournament, known as the King of Beasts? The tiger demonstrated his terrifying power, remaining calm even when facing attacks from the crocodile, gorilla, and hippopotamus. The crocodile launched the first attack, intending to test the tiger's skills, but the tiger just kept dodging and didn't fight back. The crocodile felt confident and believed the tiger wasn't that strong. At this moment, the orangutan also rushed to help. However, at that moment, the tiger unleashed his true power. He moved swiftly through the jungle, making it impossible for the 2 opponents to track his movements. Then, seizing the opportunity, he effortlessly defeated both the crocodile and the gorilla. The audience on the other side was in awe of the tiger's formidable combat abilities. At the same time, Elsa, the sister of the tiger, was chasing after Lisa, the gecko girl, but the eyed snake attacked from behind. In an instant, Elsa was tightly bound by the snake. Just as Elsa was about to bite off the snake's tail to free herself, the snake swung its tail forcefully, slamming Elsa to the ground, causing her to faint. Lisa had always disliked Elsa and took this opportunity to teach her a harsh lesson. She then dragged Elsa into a small room where she subjected her to a brutal beating. The eyed snake even had intentions of violating her. One can only wonder what the tiger would do if he found out. Fortunately, the tiger's commander noticed the situation and immediately ordered the tiger to rush to Elsa's rescue. But just as he gave the order, the awakened crocodile launched a sudden attack, biting down on the tiger's thigh. As it turns out, they were all deceived. Once the tiger received an order, he had to reach Elsa's location within 3 minutes. Otherwise, it will be regarded as disobeying the order. The explosive device attached to his neck would be detonated, instantly killing him. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the crocodile initiated a deadly death roll, completely overpowering the tiger. Witnessing this, the commanders were all impressed by the strategizing of the Horn's commander, the protagonist, Nemoto. At this moment, truly realized that every move he made could determine the life or death of Hitomi and the others. Meanwhile, the eyed snake, preparing to violate Elsa, was suddenly struck by a powerful claw attack that severed its tail. It turned out that Nemoto had asked Hitomi to rescue Elsa. This action confused everyone present. They don't understand why Nemoto went to save the enemy. Although this decision made everyone think Nemoto was crazy, only Hitomi understood his true intentions. However, during the battle with Lisa, Hitomi was almost completely suppressed. Hitomi excelled at medium-range combat, while Lisa's close-quarters fighting style made her suffer greatly. On top of that, Lisa's palms had terrifying adhesive properties, making it impossible for Hitomi to break free. Hitomi was nearly defeated, but luckily at the critical moment, Elsa appeared in time. Seiya, the cobra, immediately activated his fully beastified form upon seeing the situation. Seiya, originally a criminal, became even more ferocious after becoming a beastman. Secondly, Horn's boss is very upset that Hitomi has joined Ishita's side. Horn's primary objective in this competition was Hitomi, however, confident in her abilities. Hitomi, the honey badger, faced off against Seiya, knowing that her sharp claws could easily slash through his snake abdomen. Just as Hitomi prepared to launch an attack from Seiya's blind spot, he struck her heavily with his tail, knocking her down. It turned out that the cobra primarily relied on its tongue, rather than its eyes, for sensing its surroundings. Nevertheless, this attack did not render Hitomi completely incapacitated. After evading the assault, she quickly charged back into the fight. However, in the next moment, her eyes became lifeless, and she collapsed to the ground. It was revealed that Hitomi had been affected by the neurotoxin released into the air by the cobra. With her nerves paralyzed, Hitomi lost consciousness and became essentially a plaything at Seiya's mercy. Just as he was about to violate her, Hitomi suddenly regained her senses and swiftly severed his vital parts. Seiya, who had lost his vital part, screamed out in agony on the ground. Honey badgers have a high resistance to toxins, and Hitomi showed no mercy to this fool who wanted to violate her. She used her ultimate technique to cleave Seiya in half. On the other side, Elsa, the leopard woman, was facing a difficult battle. The experienced Lisa had also entered her fully beastified form. Elsa, already having dislocated her arm, was no match for Lisa. Lisa grabbed her and rubbed her against the wall. Fortunately, Elsa possessed rapid vision, and in her eyes, the world appeared in slow motion. Despite enduring a barrage of attacks, she flawlessly defended against each lethal strike. Eventually, she lay on the ground, pretending to be defeated. When Hitomi arrived, it created a 2-on-1 situation. Meanwhile, the tiger was still entangled by the crocodile, with the latter biting the tiger's thigh, preparing to make the tiger self-destruct. Observing this, the tiger retaliated by grabbing the crocodile, intending to go down together. However, with only 10 seconds remaining until the explosion, the hippopotamus, Okajima, suddenly charged in and separated the two. Seizing the opportunity, the tiger swiftly broke free and rushed to support her sister, Elsa. Unexpectedly, the crocodile withstood Okajima's full-force collision and rapidly healed its wounds. It was clear that the crocodile's strength surpassed that of Okajima. Just as Okajima found himself in danger, the dark horse of Samon Zaibatsu suddenly appeared before the two. As a secret weapon, what kind of formidable beastman would he be? At this moment, Hitomi and the leopard woman Elsa are preparing to surround and eliminate the gecko woman Lisa. However, Lisa received a message and quickly withdrew to find the alligator. Unaware that the alligator had already been taken down, she even encountered a tiger on her way. Confidently, she believed that if she fully transformed, she would have the power to fight. But before she could even transform, she was killed by the tiger. Without Lisa's interference, the leopard girl Elsa and Hitomi started the fight that they didn't finish last time. In this confrontation, Elsa once again utilizes her speed advantage to suppress Hitomi, even mounting her. Just when everyone thought Hitomi was about to be defeated, Elsa and Hitomi suddenly made out, and their actions are broadcasted to the entire audience present. The reason behind this is the mist released by the beastmen from the opposing team, the musky cat. Let's provide some background information. The famous allure drug is extracted from the musky cat. Initially, the musky cat was confident that the two wouldn't be able to resist its ability. However, Hitomi, fueled by her strong willpower, quickly regains her clarity and launches an attack on the musky cat. Just as she is about to succeed, the tiger who came to support her interrupts Hitomi's attack. Can Hitomi, the honey badger, be a match for the jungle king, the tiger? Meanwhile, on the other side, the alligator faces a formidable opponent named Moat. With just his human body, he was able to deflect Beastman's proud tail attack. What's more horrifying is that he can even punch the alligator's head, causing it to explode. Horn Zaibatsu's most powerful beastmen were defeated. Afterwards, Moat continues to desecrate the corpse, as he plans to use the alligator's body as fertilizer to maintain the forest. Now, try to guess what kind of animal this man is. This terrifying scene leaves the nearby hippopotamus, Okajima, dumbfounded. Despite receiving the order to retreat, Okajima finds himself without an escape route. Just as the gorilla launches an attack on him, Okajima accidentally falls into a hole dug by the rabbit girl, Inaba. He survived the attack. At this moment, the long-missing rabbit girl, Inaba, finally appears. It turns out she has been digging underground. So now, beneath the arena, there is a maze that belongs to her. She allows Okajima to rest alone while she continues to build her underground palace. However, Due to Inaba's poor sense of direction, she ends up digging a hole right in front of the gorilla. At this moment, the tiger is clearly dominating the situation. The 3 beastmen from the Hachiryu Zaibatsu have all gathered, putting Hitomi in a 3-on-1 situation. However, the tiger insists on a 1-on-1 fight with Hitomi, and Elsa, who is the tiger's sister, knows that the tiger has always preferred solitary battles. If anyone interferes, even Elsa as a teammate, they might end up being attacked. Hitomi initiates the first attack, but the tiger easily evades her strikes with agile movements. During their exchange, the tiger gradually realizes that with Hitomi's current strength, she won't be able to defeat his archenemy, the lion. While everyone is focused on the duel between Hitomi and the tiger, the rabbit unexpectedly defeats the gorilla on the other side. What could be the reason behind this? It turns out that Inaba, driven by her rabbit instincts, was running frantically away from the gorilla. Growing impatient with the chase, the gorilla uproots a tree from the roadside and hurls it at Inaba. Inaba spots a hole and tries to escape into it, but the thrown tree blocks the entrance, leaving Inaba in despair. She recalled that after she was transformed into a beastman, the happiest thing she did every day was to dig holes and sleep. Just when she thought she would meet her end, the gorilla's teammate, Moat, arrives at the scene. After being transformed into a beastman, Moat became incredibly powerful but lost the ability to think. He turned into a fighting machine solely dedicated to protecting the forest. Even when he witnessed his teammate destroying the forest, his eyes were filled with a murderous intent. The gorilla decides to deal with Moat first, relying on his prideful iron fists. However, to his surprise, his iron fist doesn't even scratch Moat, and he is sliced in half by Moat's attack. After eliminating his own teammate, Moat is ordered to go to the area where the tiger is located. Inaba, who narrowly survived, decides to quickly inform Hitomi about Moat's true identity. The current situation of the 4 teams is as follows. The Horn team has been completely wiped out. The Samon team has only the invincible Moat remaining, the Hachiryu team has all its members assembled, and the Ishida team has a non-combatant hippopotamus and a rabbit with 0 combat power, along with the only combat-ready beastman, Hitomi. Meanwhile, the battle between Hitomi and the tiger continues. He never believed Hitomi could defeat the lion, so the tiger attacked Hitomi with his own special move. Just when everyone thinks Hitomi has been instantly defeated by the tiger, she rises again from the billowing smoke. Hitomi withstands the tiger's 2 powerful attacks without falling, but she is heavily injured. Nevertheless, she gets up and prepares to face the tiger's 3rd attack. In the tiger's mind, only a lion can endure his 2 ultimate moves. Therefore, he acknowledges Hitomi's strength and simultaneously activates his most powerful form, a transformation that had only occurred in previous encounters with the lion. At that moment, Samon Zaibatsu's Oniichan Yoho taunted Nemoto. It was because of Nemoto's command. That's why Hitomi was killed. Yoho's sarcastic taunts deeply trouble Nemoto with self-blame. The only way to save Hitomi now is for Nemoto to quickly roll the dice and order Hitomi to escape to another area. However, remembering that Hitomi told him before the match to fight to the end, Nemoto, in front of all the conglomerates, declares that he will continue to participate. Just as the 2 sides were about to have their final showdown, the rabbit suddenly appeared between them and told them Moat was on his way here. But before she could finish speaking, she felt a powerful killing intent behind her, the terrifying figure of the tiger. The rabbit was so frightened that she desperately tried to flee. However, halfway through her escape, she collapsed weakly to the ground. It turned out that the musky cat's ability had taken control of her. The reason the rabbit was susceptible to this was because rabbits go into heat every day. Shortly after, the musk cat grabbed the rabbit. Soon, the tiger's side was once again ready for battle. She rushed toward Hitomi at the speed of light. However, just as the moment of victory or defeat was about to be decided, a tail suddenly sent Hitomi flying. It turns out that all of this was Yoho's carefully planned scheme. She originally intended to use that attack just now to directly eliminate both the tiger and Hitomi, but in order to make the duel more interesting, she decided to have Moat deal with them separately to enhance the spectacle. The audience below immediately realized that Moat was once a participant who was strictly prohibited from participating. However, due to a reform of the system, he regained his eligibility to compete. Yoho sought Moat's help for the reason that the head of the Beastmen Research Institute, Shrine, had blasphemed nature and created the insulting creation of Hitomi, the honey badger. Moat, who valued environmental protection, resolutely agreed to this request. That's why he kept launching fierce attacks against Hitomi in the match. Just as Hitomi was about to be killed by Moat, the tiger suddenly intervened, breaking their battle. It turns out that the tiger, who was in the midst of the duel, detests having her prey stolen. During the fight, the tiger gradually realized that Moat's skin was like armor, difficult to penetrate. While the tiger was still wondering what kind of creature he was, Moat's enormous tail forced the tiger back, and from the billowing mist emerged the true identity that Moat revealed to the public. The girl lay on the ground, barely breathing. Her teammates were digging a hole. In the next moment, her body underwent a tremendous transformation. She grew white fur all over her body and entered her ultimate form for battle. As the Beastmen tournament neared its end, the question remained, what kind of animal could nearly kill the fearless honey badger, Hitomi, and effortlessly defeat a powerful gorilla, kill an alligator with a single strike, and even withstand the attacks of the tiger, the king of beasts? The answer unexpectedly turned out to be the pangolin, known as the forest guardian, covered in scales from head to toe. The pangolin's armor rendered the tiger's attacks useless. The tiger's full attack puts the pangolin on its back and tries to break the armor by attacking his soft belly, but to his surprise, the pangolin instantly transforms into a ball. In this form, he is invulnerable. Even the tiger's best efforts can't touch him. At that moment, the pangolin intentionally showed a hole, luring the tiger to plunge his claws into it. Then the pangolin started to rotate on the spot. In an instant, one of the tiger's arms was destroyed. Elsa, witnessing the scene, feared that her brother might lose his life. She attempted to intervene and stop him from continuing the fight. However, Elsa had known since childhood that her brother would fight until his last breath, even if it meant his death. Just as the tiger prepared for a life-or-death battle against the pangolin, the hippopotamus suddenly arrived and charged, knocking the pangolin away. The hippopotamus called on everyone to prioritize dealing with this monster. While the hippopotamus acknowledged the pangolin's strength, it had absolute confidence in its own power. But in the next moment, the pangolin pierced the hippopotamus's belly. Fortunately, the tiger seized the opportunity and disabled one of the pangolin's eyes. However, in the process, the tiger itself was impaled by the pangolin's tail. Yoho, the commander of the pangolin, witnessed this and burst into laughter. Disregarding her own image as a lady, she mocked everyone present because once the tiger fell, there would be no one left who could challenge the pangolin. As the pangolin prepared to attack the severely injured Hitomi, Elsa stepped forward. But how could she be a match for the mighty Moat? Just when hope seemed lost, the heavily injured Hitomi stood up once again, and her appearance underwent a massive transformation. According to her superior, Shrine, this was Hitomi's true form, as she was a natural-born beastman. When Shrine was on a business trip in another region, he had encountered someone who tried to steal from him. At that time, Hitomi was a non-verbal wildling, despised and mistreated by the locals, who referred to her as a monster. However, only Shrine, the director of the Animal Genetics Research Institute, knew that Hitomi was a completely natural-born beastman, not an artificially synthesized one. As a result, he slowly built a good relationship with Hitomi, even though he was often beaten to a pulp whenever he brought her food. But thanks to Shrine's persistence in bringing her food every day, Hitomi's defense against him gradually diminished. One day, Shrine's subordinates shot a tranquilizer dart at Hitomi to protect Shrine from harm. Wounded, Hitomi ran into an alley but quickly succumbed to the effects of the tranquilizer and collapsed in a corner. Unfortunately, she was captured by a gang of thugs who planned to skin her and sell her off. Shrine, wanting to confront the thugs, was instead pinned to the ground and brutally beaten. In a desperate attempt to protect Hitomi, Shrine held her tightly in his arms, enduring the thugs' punches and kicks. At a critical moment, Shrine's bodyguard arrived just in time to rescue them. This incident deeply moved Hitomi, and she gradually started to exhibit human-like traits. As the fully transformed primal Hitomi, would she be able to defeat Moat, the pangolin who even the tiger couldn't defeat? At this moment, Hitomi's agility surpassed even that of Elsa, the leopard woman. She moved so swiftly that Moat couldn't land a single blow on her. Hitomi lured Moat to the edge of the forest, where the nature-loving pangolin began to show hesitation and fear. He even prioritized protecting the plants in the crucial duel. Hitomi, who didn't notice this, was knocked out by Moat's tail. Undaunted, she launched another attack against Moat. Moat assumed his defensive posture once again, but Hitomi wasn't as reckless as the tiger had been. Instead, she used the rolled-up pandolin as a ball and kicked it away. The flying pandolin crashed into several large trees, breaking them. This enraged Moat, who cared deeply for the trees, and he entered a frenzy. In an instant, the pandolin severed Hitomi's arm. It was the first time the fearless honey badger showed a painful expression. With one arm gone, Hitomi writhed in agony on the ground as Moat relentlessly attacked her. But at a critical moment, Hitomi narrowly evaded a fatal blow and shot her severed hand towards Moat, impaling his eye. Following up with a powerful punch, she shattered Moat's skull. Witnessing this scene, Yoho was so frightened that she fainted. But after defeating the pandolin, Hitomi also fainted due to exhaustion. At this point, only Elsa, along with the defenseless rabbit Inaba, remained active in the arena. They engaged in the final showdown of the beastmen competition. Elsa easily pursued Inaba, but a dramatic turn of events occurred. The rabbit who was being chased suddenly threw a back kick, kicked Elsa unconscious. This surprising turn of events caused the entire audience to rise to their feet, exclaiming in astonishment. The champion of the competition turned out to be the rabbit Inaba, securing the rights to manage the beastmen genetics for the Ishida Zaibatsu. But Horn Zaibatsu, used to playing dirty tricks, wouldn't stop there. They cut off power to the entire island, and sent a team of chameleon beastmen killers to eliminate all the beastmen on the island, so that there would be no ultimate winner. At that moment, Inaba had just finished bandaging Hitomi's wounds when she suddenly felt something was amiss. There were no staff members coming to their aid after the battle had ended. Her ears perked up, and she quickly dodged, relying on her keen hearing to avoid a deadly blow. What appeared before her were the chameleon beastmen affiliated with the Horn Zaibatsu. A chameleon's tongue can shoot out at speeds of up to 90 km per hour, taking only 0.01 seconds from release to hitting its prey. It can be considered the fastest projectile in the animal kingdom. Inaba managed to evade several attacks, but he couldn't escape the fate of being captured. Their mission was to take down the strongest tiger, the fastest leopard woman, the dark horse of the competition, Hitomi, and of course, the champion, Inaba. Just as they were about to launch their assault, a voice interrupted them. It was Hitomi, struggling to stand despite losing a significant amount of blood. Though she had difficulty standing, she still managed to dodge the chameleon's attacks and retaliated with her claws. Even in her weakened state, the attack was feeble, but still terrifying. Slowly, she stood up, driven by the reason that if she couldn't return safely, that guy Namoto would surely nag endlessly. However, due to her severe injuries, she fell heavily to the ground once again. Seizing the opportunity, the chameleons launched their attacks, but at a critical moment, a pair of sexy black stockings appeared, effortlessly taking out two chameleon beastmen. The woman with those legs was Kawasaki, the secretary of Shrine, and also the host of the competition. The venue erupted with cheers and applause in an instant. Though the battling beastmen were injured, their lives were not in danger. Looking at Hitomi's figure, Namoto finally let go of his suspended heart. The camera then turned to Inaba, the champion, but she had no idea that she had won the championship. Inside the venue, clearly disrupted by Kawasaki's appearance, the plans of the Horn Zaibatsu were in disarray, and facing the pressure from the crowd. How would the Horn Zaibatsu fare in the end? The first season of the story concludes here. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.